everybody, Claudia Boleyn here. You might know me from videos about feminism and social justice, and you might know me from my music channel where I make original music content and I also do covers. But today's video is a mental health vlog, and I wanted it to be all about how it feels to have depression, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about it, as you can probably tell from just my general demeanour. I'm having a bit of a bad day today, so I thought what better time than to make this video for you. I often get told when I make videos about depression and mental illness that I'm not depressed enough or mentally ill enough or whatever, which is weird because obviously you can't tell what's going on in someone's head from a video they put out on the internet at all, so I find that very strange. But I was going to make a video which was kind of more upbeat about misconceptions about depression, and I will make that one when I'm feeling a bit brighter, I think, because I want that one to be a bit more funny. But I guess I just wanted to sort of talk about what it feels like to have depression and how my experience of it feels, and I'm going to try and be really honest with it, even though it's kind of like it puts you in a vulnerable position to trolls and that kind of thing, internet abuse, but I think it's important. Basically, I have been diagnosed with depression by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I don't know which, but I'm officially diagnosed with it, so it's like on my medical records. So I believe that means I have a chemical imbalance, I'm not sure, but definitely it means I've got a mental illness, and it's something that I've had for a long time. I've had periods of depression since I was as early as probably about 9 years old, and when I was younger my family and myself didn't realise what these periods were, and they used to manifest in physical symptoms. So I used to, in year 5 at junior school, I got blurry vision and bad migraines and headaches, and I had to have a lot of time off, and a lot of that time I would spend just in bed crying, which now obviously is a depressive episode, but at the time I didn't realise. And then from that point onwards, throughout my entire time at school, I would get periods of gastritis and stomach pains and general feeling unwell, where I'd take lots of time off school and I would spend a lot of that time just crying in bed. And obviously now we know those were early symptoms of depression and signs that I was depressed, but I think a lot of families don't want to accept that their kids are depressed and there isn't the knowledge, because definitely my family didn't want me to be depressed. They didn't, you know, they kind of, I guess they saw it as maybe a bad reflection on them, maybe, which is, you know, it's not, because I believe it's at least partly genetic, I think. But I guess a lot of people don't want to talk about it, so it gets brushed under the carpet, and that can be really difficult because you can't understand. And I remember I couldn't understand why all my friends were able to do things and I wasn't, and I would think, am I just lazy? Am I just incapable? Like, what's wrong with me? And I'd feel awful, and I'd get like periods of self-loathing over it as well, and I'd go to bed at night and I'd cry and I'd think, why do I sleep all the time, and why do I get so sad, and why don't I enjoy socialising, and why do I get so stressed about things? Why can't I deal with my emotions? Why are my emotions so big? And it was just really confusing, and I think that actually being diagnosed with depression was the first step for me in accepting it and starting to understand myself and get a bit better, because a lot of people will say that a diagnosis is bad for you and you shouldn't label yourself, and in some cases that's probably true, but I know for me, I was able to see that I wasn't lazy and I wasn't useless. I had a mental illness, a proper illness that, you know, doctors had confirmed. The problem wasn't me, it was this illness, and it gave me something to fight. I no longer felt hopeless because I didn't think, this is just me as a person, this is just it. I thought, I was able to think, this is an illness, and there are ways to fight this illness, there are ways to hold it back, and there are ways to work with it and live with it. So after I realised I had depression, I did quite a lot of therapy. So I've done therapy since I was about 16 years old, and I think I've seen a counsellor at school since I was 14. I think maybe the school kind of twigged that there was something not right, maybe that I was having a tough time, but they didn't know I was depressed back then. But I find talking therapy has helped in the past, because it can be difficult to express your emotions when you're depressed, because I don't know how it is for you, but for me, I find it very difficult to talk to people I don't trust, which probably sounds weird considering I have a YouTube channel and I talk to a load of strangers on the internet. But I can find that easier, oddly, than talking to members of my close family and close friends, and that's kind of really weird, but I think that's just the way I am, and I'm not quite sure why that is. But I know that a lot of, I know that's true of quite a few people, because there are lots of bloggers online that are depressed or have mental illness, and they can talk about it very openly online. Even though you get a lot of hate for it, somehow it's easier online than it is to talk to people face to face. I suppose you can just turn off the internet, you can just go away from it if it gets too much, but it's harder to be rejected or have a bad reaction from people around you, I think. And again, I make these vlogs because I know what it's like to be there, and I read a quote a while ago saying, be the person that the younger you needed, and hopefully I can be that person for people like me who are a bit younger or maybe older or just in a different stage in their life, maybe people who are just sort of coming to terms with stuff. So I guess the topic of this video, I've got really away from the point, is what it feels like to have depression, and for me it's just always there in the back of my head. Even when I'm happy, I have it. It's like a darkness in the back of my head, and it's kind of hopeless, and I have a tendency to go towards very dark thoughts very quickly. I get very tired and I lack motivation, and like if I socialise, then I'm usually very tired and drained when I get home and I go to sleep. After school I always used to fall asleep every night, which made keeping up with homework really difficult because I was getting back from school and just sleeping the whole evening and either barely eating or overeating. That's another symptom of depression. It can kind of change the way you eat. So for the past couple of years I've had a really odd relationship with food. I'm emetophobic as well, which is not the topic of this video, so that's had an impact on my food intake as well, but that's been very odd for me. I feel like I could cry for no reason, which sounds really silly. Little things will really set me off and I would just get really upset, and some days I just wake up and I just don't feel like talking or putting my makeup on, and I just don't want to exist, I just don't want to be, and it's this horrible feeling that I have and it comes from inside me, and it's really hard to get myself out of days like that, and they're quite common when you're depressed, when you have depression. And that's really hard for people to understand, because sometimes they can think that you're just lazy or you're avoiding them, or, you know, if you cancel plans and things, they can think that you're being really, we're just being silly about it. But I don't think they understand how it kind of, your whole mind is taken over by this darkness and you just don't think rationally, and the small things feel like big things, and the smallest things feel like achievements on bad days like that. I mean, I personally am a self-harmer, and I wish I could say ex-self-harmer, but I'm not. I am a self-harmer at the moment, because I self-harmed a couple of weeks ago, and that's something else I'm really working on trying to stop, and that's to do with my depression. It's a bit different for everyone, I think, because, well, for me, I have a generalised anxiety disorder, which is diagnosed, and depression, which is diagnosed. There's a couple of other things which are being discussed right now, so I'm a bit of a mixture, horrible mixture of things, so my brain's not a very nice place to be in. So I guess it's difficult. I'm trying not to mix up my symptoms of other stuff I have with this, but I suppose having depression feels like having a shadow which is bigger than you and darker than you and more powerful than you, and it's always like looming over you all the time. And even when you're on top of it and you're in control, it's always there and you can see it, and you're just dreading the moment or the day that it takes over again and that it overpowers you and that it gets control of you. I hate my depressive episodes and the periods of my life when I'm really depressed, because everything seems to stop for me and I stop socialising because it's too difficult, and I find it very difficult to talk to people. I've always had a real trouble with talking to people about things. I can talk to strangers online, like I said, about the most personal things, but in real life I can't, and there are some things I can't tell anybody, and I don't know why that is. I feel like there are some things that I just can't. But I don't know how depression feels for you, but I would be interested to see in the comments, if it's not too upsetting, you know, like how it is as an experience for you, because I write a lot of poetry about depression and that kind of thing, and I find that helps a lot because it's a feeling I still can't quite describe. And also because of the society we live in, which tries to shame people who are reliant on others or who are mentally ill. I mean, online I get a lot of abuse because of it, you know, people saying I'm faking it, or I'm not that bad, or why don't I just get on with it, or I'm lazy, or something like that. And I think that's really cruel, but in a way I can kind of understand why someone who's not mentally ill would think like that, because I guess those people have never experienced what we have, they've never felt it themselves, so I guess to them depression is just sadness to them, so they can only compare it to when they felt sad, and it's really not like that, because you have no hope when you have depression. You do have hope, like there is hope for you, I'm not saying there's no hope, but you feel like there's no hope, you feel like there's nothing, you feel like nothing's going to bring you back, you just lie there, and sometimes you find yourself faking smiles for people and faking laughs, and that backfires on you, because then people in your family or something, when you get really bad, will say, well, you were fine the other day, you were smiling, you were laughing, and you don't want to admit to them that you are only doing that so they didn't worry, or you were trying to seem normal. you did, because I find that to people who don't have mental illness becomes really boring to them really quickly, and I hate that. I mean, members of my family that it's very difficult for your family when you're mentally ill, because they worry about you, and worry can come out in horrible ways, and I'm sure my mum won't mind me saying that, you know, sometimes she hasn't always reacted in the right way to it. So, you know, sometimes she'll say, when she's worried about me, she'll say, I'm bored by this, I'm bored by you always being so sad, I'm bored by you being depressed. And I guess it is boring for people around you if you're depressed, but it's worse for the person who is depressed, and I think a lot of people who aren't mentally ill can sometimes think about themselves more than what the person's going through. But yeah, it is tough on a family, and I can only imagine how difficult it must be for my brother, for example, who's grown up with me very closely. We're very close brother and sister, and to see me go through these periods of being so low must have impacted him. And you know, your family must worry. Families worry, of course they do. It's a sign that they love you, so it's good, but it's just very, very difficult. I don't really know what else to say other than I'm sorry this video isn't planned, but I'm just not feeling good at all. I just feel really low, and my mum's out, and I don't like to be by myself in those times. I don't like to be left with my thoughts, that kind of thing. That's another thing I find with depression, is that sometimes if I'm distracting myself by reading or listening to music, then I can just, it can go for a minute, and I think that's why I'm so attached to TV shows and literature, and that's why I throw myself into art and all that sort of thing, because I want to escape from these feelings, and I feel like I have to keep running to try and get ahead of them so they don't get me. That sounds really odd, but I feel like always the depression is there and the anxiety is there, and it's coming for me, and I have to stay a step ahead of it. And I just can't let myself be vulnerable to it. So that's why I immerse myself so much in writing and reading, and I blog all the time, and I'm trying to constantly find an escape from it. I'm constantly trying to stay ahead of it and keep it back, because I hate fighting it. I hate it. It takes so much out of me. Oh, it's awful. Okay, I'm aware this is a weird video, and I'm really sorry about that. But maybe you've related to it a bit if you're depressed. Maybe not. Yeah, I'm gonna go now, so I love you loads, and if you are Oh, I should probably say that if you are feeling very, very depressed and you feel very suicidal and low, and I know how that is, I've been there, I was there about a month ago, and I took an overdose, and all I can say is please don't do it. Ring somebody, talk to a parent, talk to a friend, talk to anyone you can, ring a helpline. If you've got internet access, which I'm sure you have if you're watching this, check the helplines in your area, ring a free helpline. Please don't hurt yourself. I know it's not your fault, these feelings, and even if people are making you feel guilty for it, it's a mental illness, and people can say cruel things because they don't understand it, and sometimes they say cruel things because they're worried about you, but at the end of the day it's an illness. It's the same as a physical illness, but it's more difficult sometimes because people can't see it, and because they don't have that proof, they don't give it the time of day sometimes. But I know it's real, and there's a lot of people out there who know it's real, and what you're going through is real, and I love you a lot, and I'm thinking of you, as weird as that sounds, because I don't know who you are watching this video, but I know how it feels, and I'm always thinking of other people with it, and hoping that we can sort of get through, because it's horrible, and I hope that we feel more comfortable talking about it in the years to come, and that it doesn't feel so embarrassing and weird, because I feel embarrassed and weird talking about it now, but I made a commitment to myself a while ago that I was going to try and fight the stigma a bit and not be ashamed of it. So yeah, very honest video. I hope you're okay, and I love you loads. And if you want to talk to me, then you can talk to me on Twitter or send me an ask to Tumblr. I can't promise I'll respond because I get quite a few now, but I will try to. And yeah, okay, I love you loads, and I'll see you very soon. I hope you are okay and that you're not too down watching this. And again, please don't do anything silly if you feel bad. I'm always going to say that at the end of my videos, because I know that regret of doing something and then regretting it afterwards, so you can get through it. Okay, I love you loads, bye.